So finally, we get to number one. Number one in our top five dopest Kwaito album covers. Right. And before I get to it, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but before I explain why, allow me to be naked for a minute. Allow me to be naked for a minute because this one it evokes something in me. When you go back to this time in the early 2000s, right? This was a time Yizo Yizo was popping in the streets. Yizo Yizo was doing what it was meant to do, but South Africa was very much at a different place. So there's a lot of us who grew up in the post Rainbow Nation era where there were a lot of us who grew up in who grew up in the environment of which Kwaito was born. So we grew up in the townships or in the rural areas. And Ikwaito was obviously this almost midway. It was almost talking about the urbanization of that time, right? Or the urbanization of rural culture where it was meeting South African city culture, what. So, and a lot of us we grow up in these environments, in these township environments. The architecture, our DNA was the rural environments, which are also very close to it. But in Gonge Loko sasifunda nabelungu, so we were educated in places where we would even be punished for speaking our home language at school. That's just the nature. That's what it was at that time. And so out comes this era, this type of music where it's part of our DNA. It's in everything of who we are. It's in our DNA as Abanda Bamnyam. But there's this difficulty in that we love this music. It's all we know. Mina ngisemncane, all I knew was Kwaito. I did it. All I knew was Kwaito and Umaskandi. And Umaskandi, I wasn't too much of a fan of it because it was the only thing that was there. And then you had the TV.
And the video.
A very special one, this one, eh?
It is. People have asked for this a lot of times, and this I know for a fact.
I guess we gotta tell Christos to do a video of this song.
Yeah, we did it at the rancher. Here it is. It's Boom Shaka, and
It's about time.
Which obviously showed you would, hey, there's also something else that's out there. There's something else that's not just only this. So, there was a time where I can't explain that feeling of loving an art form as much as Minangi Sadi quite, loving an art form, but also getting that understanding of that, okay, because you are a person who is educated within around Abelung, it's almost like you can love this thing, but you are made to feel as if you maybe cannot have like an ownership of it. But meanwhile, this is all so very, very interesting. So this album cover kind of, because it was so naked, it brought those things in me as well, where it gets me. It takes me back to a place where who I was at that time and who the country was and how important this music was at that time for us. We have Zola 7 Umdlwembe. Let's get back to work. Now, Zola 7 Umdlwembe we are seeing a portrait of a man. That's what it is. For me, this is it's Mona Lisa level of Kwaito music. This album cover. It's it's black and it's unapologetically black. It's as black as you want to be, is as black as you need to be, and it communicates a lot of the things that we could not even say ourselves. If you are black at that time, you were black, but you are being forced to forgive. But yes, I said forced to forgive. You're black, but you had anger, you had pain. You knew that you are part of something, but that thing you are part of, it's divided. That blackness within all of us that makes our beauty, that makes our greatness, it was divided. This and obviously because this is a portrait of a black man, it's a close up, it's unapologetic, it's not, and it's obviously it's got Lomechi, which is at that time, that was the swag. This is still probably even the swag match. But I look at the handling even of the typography on this album cover where the word Zola is brick. They use the brick text because it's brick, it's hard, it's the hardest thing you're about to hear. His eyes, he's angry, there's that frustration. Uvala umlomo kodwa. So there's an angriness, but there's a calmness as well. To it, you can see there's something that's bubbling, that's boiling inside this person, and you just want to hear his story and listen to the music and what makes a man present himself in this way. Even the way in which Umdlwembe is written, it's sharp, it's spiky. So Yonke Ndolana it's really a moment in which I like talking about like images that break through. This broke through. It broke through. It broke through just the feeling of the time where with even from a media point of view. I mean, at this time, Uzola then went and he acted. He was, I think, around the time of where he was Upapa Action, or his first run as Upapa Action. But even in that, as the time has gone on, we've all gone to know this, the Zola 7, what he did, what he eventually did, what he was eventually able to achieve and do, and, all the greatness he was able to inspire all of us with. But you can also see this image as well. It is a hyper mediated image as well in that in that this is also, as much as there was a rawness and a truth to it, it was also an image of how he was portrayed to the world. It was at a time where the media could really almost construct the image of who you are. And the fact that this guy you see on this image went on to become Zola 7, who that run where he gave back to this country, and he was involved in trying to build and yes, there were the scandals. We're not whatever the anga's root about the scandals, but what the Zola 7 brand did at its peak for just the people in terms of the black story, that's from it almost flipped even what this image was, and it expanded onto what this is not just who he is as well.
Hey Tada, this is Zola, 100% purebred in South Africa with the South African stamp of approval, and of course, I'm fully beveraged in South Africa, proudly South African. Sharp, sharp, which means mocha, mocha, means pashash, pashash, means perfect, perfect. Zola 7.
He's so much more. So, yeah. So, this is the dopest album cover for me. I'm willing to fight anyone about it. The one thing that makes me angry about this album cover, though, is the fact that I spent a lot of time and I cannot find who worked on this. That for me is who the photographer was on this. I need to know who that was, because we need to give them their flowers and do and really do right by whoever worked on this. They contributed to the art landscape of South African culture and music. So shout out to them.